For those of you that love talking about animals, from Sci News, Dimetrodon borealis, first Canadian dino, actually mammal-like reptile. A dinosaur fossil known as Bethagnathus borealis has been shown to have steak knife-like teeth, and a team of Canadian paleontologists has changed its scientific name to Dimetrodon borealis. Well, this is good to see that we have a new species of Dimetrodon. The first species Dimetrodon was found back in the 1880s over in Texas. Here the problem is that the author is keeping the tradition of confusing Dimetrodon with the dinosaur, and dinosaurs would not evolve for another 50 million years. Actually, in some cases, even longer. But Dimetrodon existed over in Oklahoma and Texas around 290 million years ago during the early stages of the Permian period. During this time, there were a wide range of different species of large amphibians, large different species of proto-mammals, and distant relatives of the dinosaurs. But this specific individual, despite having an elongated vertebra similar to the spinosaurs of the Cretaceous period, this animal is more closely related to people. So let's continue. In fact, Dimetrodon is more of an early uncle to primates. So, known from a single specimen, Bethagnathus borealis has a long and intriguing taxonomic history. It is the second vertebrate fossil named from Canada. Dendrepton acadianum was named a few months earlier, and the first non mammalian synapsid ever found. So, that is quite interesting. I wonder if that's correct. So, the synapsids were basically the large group of proto-mammals that would have evolved during the Permian period, so over 298 million years ago, and would become today's mammals. Originally collected on Prince Edward Island, Canada. In 1845, the Bethagnathus specimen was not formally named until 1853 and described in 1854 as the dentary of a bipedal saurian. I'm trying to think what it's referring to as a saurian, like specifically another just group of reptiles. I don't believe it's referring to a dinosaur. Subsequently, it was erroneously considered a dinosaur. Oh, until the specimen was recognized as a theriodont in 1876 and later identified as this partial snout of a sphenocontidid. This sounds like this could be a specific group of proto-mammals, but I cannot confirm that at the moment. So let's take another look at some other creatures from the Paleozoic era, which is the time before the dinosaurs and after the Precambrian era. This is specifically Limnoceles, which is a member of the Diadectomorpha lineage of reptiles. Specifically tetrapods. Reptiles were a part of this lineage. Many different species, especially from the sauropsoid lineage of tetrapods, which would evolve into different species of dinosaurs as well as birds and other species of reptiles, especially the crocodilomorphs. This animal lived in the Permian somewhere around 300 million years ago. And well, in fact, you could find as far back as the late Carboniferous period. But this individual was around 7 feet in length, or pushing 2.2 meters, and probably weighed somewhere around 200 pounds. It was likely feeding on different species of fish in the region, maybe going after different types of amphibians, a wide range of different insects at this point. So it was a very successful carnivore during the early Permian period. So let's head back to the article. It's also been found in different parts of New Mexico. Using family trees and imaging techniques to see the internal anatomy of the fossil, Professor Rice and co authors found that the eight preserved teeth linked to the fossil linked the fossil to the Dimetrodon group, the first terrestrial animal to have zyphodont teeth. This is probably referring to the type of teeth that are more adapted for chewing and not just simply taking in a chunk of meat and swallowing a whole. Dimetrodon was one of the first carnivores to have a somewhat chewing mechanism, almost like today's hyenas to an extent, but a very different tooth structure. The dinosaurs, the predatory dinosaurs, there weren't any that had a chewing mechanism. There were some that had sharper teeth than others, some that had more robust teeth. However, none were designed for complex chewing. Same thing for the crocodilomorphs as well. Seems to be a synapsid trait. Well, if you're referring to the meat eaters, not so much the herbivores. There were different species of herbivorous dinosaurs that could efficiently chew their food, the duckbills, for instance. So let's keep going. These are blade like teeth with tiny serrations along the front and back of the teeth, similar to a steak knife. The roots of these teeth are very long, around double the length of the crowns. This type of tooth is very effective for biting and ripping flesh from prey. Um, I wouldn't say that that's a very complex or just in depth description of these teeth. It's a carnivore. I hope so. Let's take a look at another Paleozoic animal. Now, well, this is actually from the Mesozoic. So this is Antarctosuchus, which lived in Antarctica during the mid-Triassic period, around 230 million years ago, around the time of the first species of dinosaurs, as well as other types of proto-mammals and a wide range of different types of reptile from the region, especially different types of crocodilomorph archosaurs.
Did I put up an incorrect picture? Because the other one had its eyes on the top of its head.
No, this is just at least well, here's the thing. Antarctosuchus is a member of the mastodon-saurid lineage of the temnospondyl amphibians. So the temnospondyls first evolved during the Carboniferous over 320 million years ago, and they would live until the very beginning of the Cretaceous period, around 135 million years ago. Now, here in the Triassic, they have become quite abundant. Even the Permian, they were quite successful as well. The Antarctosuchus could reach a little over 10 feet in length and probably, or 3 meters, probably weighs somewhere around 2 to 300 pounds, or a little over what 150 kilograms. And it was likely feeding on some of the earliest dinosaur species, if there were any in the region, as well as different species of fish and other amphibians, but likely not going after any large prey. I mean, the dinosaurs at this point were not much more than 5 to um, 11 feet in length. So just probably preying on the juveniles. So let's head back to the article. Dimetrodon borealis is actually more closely related to mammals than it is to dinosaurs. Oh, now it mentions it. In fact, it's believed they went extinct some 40 million years before the dinosaurs. If you're referring to Dimetrodon itself and its closest relatives, that is somewhat true. But let's see, the dinosaurs, it looks like, first evolved somewhere between 235 and 240 million years ago, at least with the most recent discoveries. Now, um, I don't know. That's pushing it for the time frame. They might have been around much more recently, or much closer in time to the dinosaurs. The proto-mammals, however, that looked somewhat similar to Dimetrodon, like the Gorgonopsians, they would um, they would live for as recent as 250 million years ago, during the very end of the Permian. And you had a wide range of different species of rodent mammals that would also make it into the Triassic and then eventually evolve into the true mammals, which evolved around the same time as the dinosaurs. Now, taking a look at another individual, despite this animal looking very similar to Dimetrodon, it's not closely related at all. This is actually a member of the Temnospondyl lineage. It's an amphibian. This animal is, well, I mentioned that it's not closely, or it's not related to it at all. Technically, at some point it is, but it's this is an amphibian, and Dimetrodon is a proto-mammal. So they're just very far apart. But it's just one of those animals that shares a common characteristic with Dimetrodon, having an elongated sail. It is a big question as to what these sails might have been used for. Um, Probably like the Dimetrodon, as well as different species of Spinosaurs. You could even say different species of duck-billed dinosaurs. They were probably used for display, so attracting mates during the breeding season, intimidating rivals, maybe fighting off individuals from carcasses. This animal, it's been debated as to whether or not it was a carnivore or an herbivore. Oh, and just to let everybody know, this individual was probably not much more than 4 to 5.5 feet in length. They're pushing a little over 1.8 meters. So it was. It's been more agreed upon by other paleontologists that this animal is carnivorous. Really, why it was mentioned that it was possibly an herbivore is due to it not having the legs that were able to run, pretty much. But it's still possible when looking at the dentry of this animal. It looks like it's mainly designed for going after small worms, maybe different species of smaller amphibian, and as well as even going after different species of reptiles, maybe even young proto-mammals. And it lived in Texas around 295 million years ago, so around the same time as Dimetrodon, the large carnivore, which I should give some recognition to, a little more. This animal could reach over 15 feet in length. They're pushing around 5 meters and probably weigh up to 600 pounds or a little over 290 kilograms, and was the top predator in the Texas red beds that it inhabited around 290 million years ago. So, preying on other species of synapse in the region.
Didn't they say they found him in Canada?
Um, that was the confusing part. It mentioned that they changed it to Dimetrodon borealis, and then just mentioned Bethagnathus, for the rest of the article. So that was a bit confusing. There have been Dimetrodons discovered over in Germany, but Canada. That I well, okay, no, mentioned team of. Wait, no, it was Canadian. I don't know. This is odd. So I will do a bit more research on this, considering this is quite confusing. Originally from Prince Edward Island. Well, that's over in eastern Canada, not too far from Maine. So I, hmm, wait a second. That was in the 1850s. We'll see. Let me know in the comments what your favorite species of proto-mammal is. And from prehistoric to present, my name is Ethan. This is Creature Guide Live Daily News. Remember to like, comment, subscribe if you love talking about animals, and share this show with everyone you know, because nothing is better than all animals all the time.